Because you need to protect your inside position, specifically your torso and your neck, from being controlled and isolated, it's important to always use what you have available to do so, as well as take away what's available from your opponent to protect their inside position. You must isolate what's available so that there's nothing available, because a good grappler will always use what they have available if there's opportunity to do so. Isolation means to take away your opponent's ability to grip, frame, or close space to effectively defend or attack, and there are varying amounts of isolation, and the more isolation you have, the better. For example, in mounts, you have isolated your opponent's legs more so than you do in side control, and when attacking the arm triangle, once you have their elbow in line with their shoulder, this is isolation as they can no longer use that arm to defend, but once you bring their elbow even higher past their shoulder, it's even more isolated, and you can pass that arm off to be controlled with your head. Their other arm isn't isolated in the sense that you're not controlling it, but because it cannot grip, frame, or close space to defend or attack, it is isolated. Another example will be an arm in versus arm out guillotine. I'm not going to say that one's better than the other, they're both great and some people lean towards one over the other, but one advantage of the arm in guillotine that the arm that's in is isolated and can't be used to effectively defend. Watch here how my opponent cannot defend as his arm is completely isolated behind my back. It cannot be used to defend and he must tap. In this situation, while still an arm in guillotine, I'm unable to fully isolate his arm and he gets his arm in front of me and he's able to fight the hands to defend. I abandon it as I haven't isolated it enough, but immediately start isolating his arm for an arm triangle instead, and this is a great example of path of least resistance. Another example of the more isolation you have being important would be an anaconda choke. You can certainly perform an anaconda choke without using your legs to help further isolate the arm that's in the choke, but by using your legs, you'll have more isolation and the choke will be easier to both lock up and finish. This is a great example of using what's available. You must use your arms, legs, and head effectively. The mistake that so many grapplers make is not using their legs and head enough as they should. When attacking the anaconda choke, a common counter is for your opponent to flare their elbow to create space between their shoulder and neck. This makes it both harder to finish and completely lock up. What is available to isolate their arms so they can't defend? My arms are already tied up to control and keep position, but I do have my legs available, so I use them to push the arm across further so he cannot flare his elbow. I've used my arms and legs to completely isolate his defense and he's forced to tap. I used what I have available to take away what he had available. Another example is using your feet as grips. They are grips. You need to use them as much as you can as an extra set of hands. See here, I use my feet to control my opponent's arm. I don't want them to use that arm to defend. In the majority of cases when you're going for an armbar, you need to both enter into the armbar position as well as break their defensive grips to fully extend their arm. If you can prevent them from gripping their hands together in the first place, then you've taken away their ability to defend. The more you can use your legs and feet to isolate, the easier jiu-jitsu becomes. This is why stapling in side control or when passing makes attacking so much easier, because you're using what you have available to further isolate what they have available. When you cannot grip, frame, or close space with your arms or your legs, you need to use what you have available, which is often your head. Let's look at some examples. See here, I do a poor job of wrestling up and leave my neck vulnerable in the process. My legs and arms aren't available to defend, but I close space using my head, gluing it to my shoulder. Now my opponent cannot penetrate my inside position. Here my opponent doesn't use what he has available. He doesn't glue his head to his shoulder, he doesn't close space, and I get under his neck as a result. Here's another example again of using my head to close space as it's all I had available to defend. Using your head to prevent sweeps is another great example. Here my opponent launches me forward and I post on my head to stay up, and then transfer my weight to my hands as they became available to stay up. Although I do eventually fall, at least I fought it off the best that I could using what I had available. Another example of using what's available to take away what's available is preventing your opponent from gripping. Here I cut my opponent's hand to prevent him from gripping their hands together. I used my hand, which was available, to take away the availability of their hand, so their hand can't grip and defend the armbar. To summarize, you need to use what you have available for maximum control of your opponent. You need to take away what's available by isolating it. The more that you can be aware of this while you're rolling, the more success that you'll have.